It is the morning of Sunday, 7 April 2024, as of when I'm filming this. I am Tanis Leonhardi, she, her, hers of Seattle. And I'm going to talk about from hourly to salary employee, my journey, 2007 to 2019. I quit my jobs in 2019, so I do have money I make cleaning house and dog sitting and stuff like that. However, it's not hourly, nor is it salary, nor is it the in between with stipend. So I'm going to talk about over the course of my work experience from 2007 to 2019, over 5 years in aquatic sports as well as over 5 years in science. I progressed from hourly to salary employee. Here I talk about the journey and some of the different organizations I worked for. So that's the introduction. So let's jump into it by kind of payment type. So 2007 to 2013 was hourly. That was, yes, I guess it'd be 2012. I was thinking of schoolwork because I was in school at the time. 2012. Okay. So 2007 to 2012, was aquatic sports, and the years are inclusive. I worked at multiple pools. So the local pool, the local YMCA, and then a pool down on the heavily trafficked Green Lake in Seattle. And that was hourly. I almost doubled my hourly wages by working in Seattle and had yes, it was a very competitive workspace. Not that up here wasn't competitive, just it was how the pool system worked. And so I went from cleaner to lifeguard / swim instructor to here, swim lessons instructor to senior lifeguard and assistant swim coach. So there was a progression there, and with the progression came in pay increases. So it was hourly work, and we had cards, some people punched their cards. We had to write down the time we came in and write down the time we went out for one of them, and then other ones were like sheets of paper, and some of them were shared sheets of paper, so all the employees would share, like check in, check out. So that kind of like punch your time card and everybody shares something. That was actually still kind of shared, only less private. Right? These were, and like if we all write down our work time on the same sheet at one of the employers. So yes. Then 2012 to 2014 was a combination in that chunk of hourly and stipend work. So hourly, so that was still some aquatic sports stuff. Yeah. And then I was a resident assistant. And as a resident assistant, I got food and lodging and a stipend. And so a stipend is actually different than a salary. Now a salary could be distributed as a stipend. However, we were not salaried employees. There were two tiers. We were the stipend employees, and then the resident directors. So there was the residents, and then there were the people who were the employees that oversaw the residents, like on a per floor level, which was the resident assistants, which is what I was. And we got a stipend and our food and lodging covered. And then above us, the person who oversaw the resident assistants for the given residential building was a resident director. And there was, depending on the size, there may be an assistant resident director. And if I'm recalling correctly, the resident director, I don't remember if the assistant resident director was or not, possibly, was salaried, if I'm recalling correctly. So there was like a structure there. So the resident directors did a good job of, no, you guys are not salaried employees, you're stipend employees. And we'd get, it was with the paycheck, we get a paycheck. And it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to be like, I want to go to Walmart and get something, for food, kind of thing. So, well, thing, you kind of, so it was a little bit different because we had work shifts we had to cover. However, the work shifts did not, like, and we had to figure out what shifts we were working and what days we were on call and that kind of stuff. But it wasn't the pay, like, it was already set what our stipend was going to be. So we had to, so we think of it as like, okay, we get the stipend, so we need to adjust what we're doing to match the stipend, if that makes sense, as opposed to with hourly. It was, because it's not fixed, there was more like, okay, just don't, go over in hours was the concern. So there was like an emphasis on hours with hourly, and then with stipend, it was more like, just make it work to match what you need for the stipend. Okay, 2014 to 2015, that was a transitional year from the stipend. So there was stipend at the beginning, and then I left that job and went to back to hourly work, this time in geology and geophysics, as well as physics and astronomy. Is that in that time? Yeah, that's in that time frame. So it was yeah. And so the work was variable. So for this entire chunk, 2007 to 2015, very physical work, right? Like, there was actually like swim instructors, lifeguarding, that kind of stuff. It's very present on the pool deck. There's interactions with other people. There's like actually have physical ability, kind of in terms of my own physical exertion on the job. And that didn't change in science. So I got to shake rocks. I got to do laboratory experiments with vertical furnace. I did grading of papers in physics and astronomy. That homework tests. Did I do tests? Yeah, I don't. Okay. So it was, I still had the physical, and that continued, though I did more coding later on, like computer programming kind of coding. So it was a return to hourly, and I enjoyed it, and it was fun to get hourly work in science. I actually quite enjoyed it. Okay. And then 2015 to 2018, I became a salaried employee for the first time, and that was there was a bunch of internal department. We're not all paid the same, but we should be all paid the same. So approximately, okay, that was something that a bunch of students got flustered about, and I was like, you know what? It's approximately the same. Unless you got some nice like fellowship or grant or something like that, kind of thing. Like, and then you might be making more money than this. But approximately, for those of us who are dependent on that, we give you 5 years of funding, or we'll help you, like, that's part of the entrance thing. We're like, okay, I was one of the poor graduate students in that sense. I wasn't some fancy fellowship awardee. So us, we approximately had the same salary. And once we advanced to a certain point, then there was a pay increase, kind of thing. So it did go up while I was there. And so that one was, I guess, yeah. So that one was another academic institution. I didn't name the previous one, did I? No. So I guess we'll just do by, this one was science, and teaching and stuff. And then in 2018 to 2019, I added in something outside of the department/division I was working in, so which meant a little bit of a different, I'm going to call it an hourly job, because I did fill out timesheets. I think it was the job description in an hourly thing, but we were set for like a number of hours. But there was more emphasis there. So I was in a different division. So I was in Earth and Planetary Science for like the base of this 2015 to 2019. But then I was also working in the graduate division, professional development specifically. So that one was more hourly. So I would, it wasn't necessarily the same as salary. What's the thing about salary? So salary came with, I also got a tuition waiver and health insurance. And well, I guess, so then it was good to add that the relatively hourly, even if it wasn't necessarily hourly, it was something I knew from before that institution, before 2015, at this one institution. And I appreciated having it back, and it allowed me a little bit of reflection of like, what does it actually mean to be a salary employee? It means it's closer to the stipend kind of work in terms of this is how much you're going to make for a set period of time, adjust accordingly. However, say I was very much a workhorse kind of. I did a lot of work kind of thing, and perhaps more than expectations. And so I think there was an expectation of that from at least one of my supervisors. And I was like, the problem with that is when I'm pulling 16-hour days and I'm paid for 8-hour days, there's a problem with that. So and if I don't do that, then my supervisor starts to say, you're failing and stuff. And I'm like, and you're not paying me for the hours I do. So I think at the organization I'm at, a good thing I didn't name it, for this 2015 to 2019 stretch it was abused. So I have not had a good experience with being a salary employee. It's kind of how I would take that away. And the 2018 to 2019 where I did salary and hourly really kind of helped me realize that it had been in fact abused. Like I was like, before I took on this additional job, which I had multiple roles in my time at the one institution, multiple jobs. There's gonna be research, teaching, and then professional development liaison. I did come, like before the professional development one, I was like, this is being abused. And then with professional development, it was like, it's really being abused. Like, and I was just kind of like, I hope someday that I have a good experience with being a salaried employee. Yeah, so it did not at that one institution down to the day of quitting, time of quitting. So in conclusion, that was a bit about my journey from hourly to salary employee, 2007 to 2019. It'd be interesting to return. I hope to be employed as a salary employee, be it Noah Lyles, Jacob Ingebrigtsen, Zalan Sarkani, Ilya Karoun, Attila Zalai, Roland Zalai, somebody else, maybe Hubert Kos or Leo Marchand, or I don't know what institution. I hope to have a better, if I go back to salary, being or let's not do that. If I am a salaried employee again, I hope to have a better experience. Or I'm going to even say something better. I hope to have a good experience, right? I had a negative experience. Let's get something that's like neutral and or positive, and I would be happy. So there we go. I'm Tanis Leonhardi, She, Her, Hers of Seattle, and filming this Sunday, 7 April 2024.